on, guys. When you think about it, information and the way you portray it, it seems like it can come across in a countless amount of ways, right? And foundationally, the two that I'm going to talk about today are literal and metaphoric. And how can you use this concept to try to understand maybe a little bit more context that's available for you inside any piece of information. Literal is exactly what it sounds like. It is the literal meaning of the words that you're depicting. The information that you're depicting doesn't have to be words, I guess, just the literal meaning, exactly what it looks like. Metaphoric is different. It's like more storytelling, right? It's like the meaning behind it, or the meaning of what the information could potentially mean. It's more airy, it's less grounded. It can be compared to feminine energy, in my opinion. It's the way that they used to speak back in the old days. When people try to depict things like the Bible or like any metaphysical teaching or stuff like that, like, you got to realize how wishy-washy that really is going to be, because you have all of these different things that are changing what this information could potentially mean. First of all, you have your own human filter and what your brain represents, right? And your consciousness and your mindset and all of these different parts about you that change the way you intercept with information, because you have all these experiences that created neurological pathways that completely change the information you're going to be privy to in any circumstance. You have certain things that you believe are possible. You'll see those types of things in every circumstance. The things that you don't even believe are possible, the things that you don't really buy into, aren't going to be included in the filter. That being said, any depiction of an event, any depiction of information from one person to another is literally that person's filter trying to explain something that they understand as accurately as possible, which verbal language, it's only as accurate as... Why do you think they say a picture is worth 1,000 words? What's a video worth? So on top of that, if there's at least two different dynamics in which the language is meant to be portrayed to begin with, meaning literal or metaphoric, then that just adds even less accuracy to what you're trying to get out of the information someone else is trying to portray to you. Why is this important? Well, what you need to realize is that, like, this stuff's going on, and like this stuff's going on with you, so that you can more objectively view situations and events and stuff like that. And then also stories that people will tell you, right? Because like, people don't seem to realize that when they're telling their viewpoint on an event, that it's their perspective, right? And that there might be certain biases that they hold that don't allow them to see it objectively. That's all of us. Every single one of us. So to talk about that is so that you realize that this next part that I'm going to go into is more of a metaphoric interpretation of the way concepts work in reality. We have polarity. Everything occurs, every concept occurs at some point in the spectrum in between two poles. Let me give you an example. I'll give you a literal example first. Color, right? Color is literally a spectrum, and it's the polarity between no light and light. That's it. You can look at concepts, complex or not complex, through this lens. Why would you even want to look at things in terms of polarity? If you think about it, human beings are very, very based out of their emotions, meaning that the events that we have in our life have the positive charge to them from the emotional state that we're in. Fear has a strong-ish charge, but love has a much stronger charge, right? There's a polarity. And what you want to do, let's talk about showing up before we go back into this. How you show up in life is literally everything. The way that you approach situations is going to determine if you are reacting to them or if you're acting in a way that you deem fit based on the way you want to act, right? So that begs that the showing up, how you're going to show up, that's like the most important part. Because as a human mechanism, that's going to be what determines where you are on that vibrational scale between fear and love. And that's going to determine the content of all of the different situations and circumstances you find yourself in. So, going back to that, thinking about it like that, seeing the polarity there, you don't want to be swinging back and forth all the time, right? You want to spend, because ultimately, if you're going to attract things that are in essence of what you are, and you're different at all points during the day, every single second is a different state that you're in, you're going to attract things that are most resonant with the state that you stay the most time in. So, hear me out on this. The polarity between fear and love is going to, where you fall on that is going to change depending on the moment and the state that you're in and how you're showing up and everything that's going on and how you're reacting to it, all of that. Excuse me. So, that being said, you don't want to be swayed by things in your environment. That is how you neutralize the pendulum. You want to realize that you have the control over your own state. And if that's true, seek out ways that work for you to mitigate the swing of that pendulum. What would that look like? Redirection is something that works really well for me, because if you think about it on a neurological level, what's happening is all these emotions and everything that you're experiencing and feeling is an electrical signal in your nervous system. Experiences cause neurological pathways to form. And when you have experiences that resonate with an experience that you've had before, you travel those pathways over and over again. And what the pathways look like are input from sensory data, and then they go back through to it's like your brain compares that input, sees if it recognizes it at all, to see if it can go down a pathway that it's already formed. And then once it recognizes, okay, this is similar to something that I've gone through before, I recognize this emotional charge that I'm getting from my input around me, then all of a sudden it goes to a reactive circuit where now your input over to a reaction, and then that output is like on autopilot. So redirection is when you notice that input, when you know, you got to stay conscious to do this, stay in the moment. You can't be thinking about the past and the future. You have to really just ground in, concentrate on your breath, and then what you're going to realize is you're going to notice these things when they crop up. And there's two ways to redirect. There's one is in the moment. And you have to do both of these if you want it to work, in my opinion. One is in the moment. When in the moment you get that input data, you change what you're doing. Go over here, pick up a weight, and pump it a few times, right? Go do something else. Turn on a different neurological circuit in your system. That's in the moment redirection. The other way is, I don't know if you meditate, you should. It's so useful. It's just one of the best tools you can utilize to make sure these things are going the way you want them to, not just going on autopilot. When you're meditating and you're like this, imagine those circumstances that you've noticed give you an emotional charge. You're going to feel those emotions come up. Now what I want you to do is narrate a different meaning to it. Meaning, go back over the situation as objectively as possible so that you can see the other person, the other people, the other things in those circumstances that are causing these reactions from a more objective viewpoint, so that you understand more thoroughly with more context why those actions of other people and why those things would have happened. And then when you do that, it frees up that neurological pathway and you can write a new meaning to it. You can see it as something that empowers you instead of something that sucks the life out of you.